At 29, my husband's will was read. His mistress took the mansion. I got a worthless shack. My in-laws sneered. But when I opened that shack's door, what I saw changed everything. Can you imagine the gut-wrenching betrayal of watching your dead husband's mistress inherit everything you built together? Our mansion, our cars, our life, leaving you with nothing but a worthless, rotting shack? I thought that was rock bottom, the most humiliating moment of my life. I was wrong. That shack, that damn shack, was about to reveal a twisted truth so dark it would make me question every single moment of my life and unleash a terrifying fight for survival. I'm Sophia, and I was just 29 when my world exploded. 3 weeks after Marcus, my husband, died in a car crash, I found myself sitting in the mahogany-paneled office of Harrison and Associates. It felt less like a law firm and more like a mausoleum for my shattered dreams. Marcus's wedding band, cold and sharp, dug into my palm as I clutched it. Across from me sat Melissa, his mistress, drumming her manicured fingers on the gleaming table. She wore a black dress that was anything but morning attire and a smug, cat-like smile as she occasionally caught my eye. My mother-in-law, Patricia, sat rigid beside me, refusing to even look my way. My father-in-law, Richard, held court at the head of the table, his steel-gray eyes fixed on the lawyer, Mr. Harrison. You could practically taste the judgment, the pity, and in some eyes, pure satisfaction. They all believed Marcus had finally shown me my worth. Mr. Harrison's voice droned on, announcing the will was written and notarized 6 months before Marcus's death. 6 months ago, we were planning our 5th anniversary trip to Greece. 6 months ago, I thought we were happy. Then came the words that twisted the knife. To my beloved Melissa Crawford, I leave the estate at 47, Rosewood Drive, the investment portfolio, the Mercedes-Benz S-Class, the BMW X5, and the vacation property in Aspen. Each item was a fresh stab. The Aspen property, where we'd spent last Christmas. The Mercedes he'd given me for my birthday, now apparently hers. Melissa's lips curved into a triumphant smile. This is insane, I heard myself say, my voice a stranger's. We were married. California is a community property state. Richard's voice cut me off, cold and flat. Everything was in his name, Sophia. Separate property. Then, the final blow. To my wife, Sophia Marie Whitmore, I leave the property at 1847 Old Mill Road, commonly known as the Fisher Shack. The Fisher Shack. Everyone knew it. A ramshackle, rotting eyesore on the edge of town. Abandoned for decades. Melissa's stage whisper sliced through the silence. That fits her perfectly. Cheap and pathetic. The laughter that followed, even Patricia's suppressed twitch of a smile, felt like acid. But it was Richard's look of satisfaction, of relief, that truly broke me. This has to be a mistake. I stood, my chair scraping back. Marcus promised me. We had plans. My voice broke. Richard just narrowed his eyes. Be grateful, Sophia. He could have left you nothing at all. Grateful? For a worthless shack. For the scraps of a life I thought was ours, while she wore Marcus's grandmother's pearl necklace, the one he'd said was being cleaned. Mr. Harrison slid a rusty key across the table. 3 months. That's all they gave me to deal with it. I'll contest this, I vowed, my voice shaking with fury. Melissa's saccharine voice followed me out. Have fun in your shack. I hear it's lovely this time of year. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. Later, in my old Honda Civic, the one Marcus always complained about, the sobs finally came. I should have gone to my sister Elena's, but something pulled me toward Old Mill Road. Morbid curiosity, or a whisper in the back of my mind that sounded like Marcus. There are places I'll never let you go, Sophia. Not safe for you. I used to think he was overprotective. Now I wondered. The road to the shack became a dark tunnel. Streetlights vanished. My GPS died. Then the shack. It squatted in a clearing like something from a horror movie. Sagging roof, boarded windows, vines clawing at the siding. I sat in my car, engine running, debating. It was late. I was alone. But the key burned in my pocket. What was Marcus hiding? The lock groaned open, and hinges screamed as the door swung inward, sending bats fluttering. I stepped into air thick with dust and rot, but also something metallic, sharp, like old pennies or blood. Ridiculous, I told myself it was just the atmosphere. My phone's flashlight cut through the gloom. The main room was larger than expected. Furniture huddled under ancient sheets. Boxes, soft with moisture, leaned against a wall. But the walls themselves, covered in carvings, initials, dates, symbols I didn't recognize. Jam 1987. The deal is done. 1993 they know. Run 2001. I searched for Marcus's name, for any Whitmore, but the wood was too splintered. The fireplace was stuffed with disintegrating papers. Transfer complete. Liability assumed. In the event of discovery, knock, knock, knock. A deliberate, measured sound from beneath the floorboards. I froze. Then 3 more knocks from a different spot, as if something was moving, tracking me. Hello! My voice was barely a whisper. Is someone there? Silence. Then, the knocking again. This was stupid. I was in a horror movie. I needed to leave, but as I turned, my light caught a photograph tucked into a broken mirror. Marcus, younger, maybe 10 years ago, standing in front of this very shack with 3 other men in expensive suits, champagne glasses raised. On the back it read, Phase 1 complete, 2014, a year before I met him at that charity fundraiser. Had it all been planned? Another forceful knock from below, and dust rained down. I stumbled, hitting a covered table. The sheet slipped off, revealing dozens of photographs. All of me. Me at graduation. Me jogging. Me at 17, in my high school uniform, utterly unaware someone was watching. Documenting. Studying me. My legs gave out. I sank onto the dusty couch, Marcus's wedding band falling from my numb fingers, rolling into the shadows. How long? Who? I wasn't special. I was just Sophia. Middle class, nobody Sophia. The knocking stopped, replaced by a scratching, moving beneath the floorboards. My phone buzzed, Elena texting, asking if I was okay. Home. I had no home. Then my phone went dead. Black. Not even 60% battery could save me. Absolute darkness. And in that darkness, I heard it clearly, a door opening deep inside the house. Footsteps. Slow, measured, approaching. Closer. I held my breath, praying. The footsteps entered the room. Paused. I could hear breathing that wasn't my own. The smell of cigarette smoke drifted through the air. Then, my phone blazed back to life. Flashlight on. The room was empty. But on the dusty floor, fresh footprints led from the doorway to just a few feet from me, then stopped. Vanished. And on the table, where the photos had been, was a leather-bound notebook. On its cover, in faded gold, Sophia. My hands trembled as I reached for it. Run. Every instinct screamed. But I had to know. The pages were filled with Marcus's handwriting. The first entry, dated 3 years before we met, subject acquired. Surveillance begins tomorrow. Our insists she's perfect for the role. No family money, limited connections, ambitious enough to be grateful for attention. If she's as malleable as the background check suggests, Phase 2 can begin within 18 months. I was going to be sick. Our entire relationship. A controlled operation. Why? More pages. Surveillance logs, my habits, weaknesses, strategies to make me fall in love, to isolate me. A door slammed. Then another. Every door in the house, slamming in sequence. Louder, more violent, closer. I ran. Crashed through the front door, stumbling down the rotted steps, my phone light swinging wildly as I sprinted for my car. Behind me, the house was silent again, but I could feel it watching. As my headlights swung across the shack one last time, I saw a figure in a broken window. Tall, unmoving. Marcus's voice echoed in my memory. If anything happens to me, Soph, stay away from the shack. Promise me. He'd said it a week before he died. I'd laughed it off. Now I understood his fear. Whatever secrets this place held, they were dangerous. But plan or not, I was going back. The notebook proved someone wanted me to know. Tomorrow, in daylight, with backup. The morning sun did nothing to make the shack less ominous. Sophia, this place should be condemned, Elena said, pulling her jacket tighter. Her boyfriend, Tom, a contractor, poked at beams, shaking his head. One good storm and it's down. but I only saw the empty window where the figure had stood. I need to get something, I said, already moving. Important paperwork. Then we all go, Elena declared. Tom grabbed a crowbar. Inside, the house felt different, less malevolent. The photos, the footprints from last night, all gone. What exactly are we looking for? Tom asked. Anything important, I said vaguely, running my hands along the walls. Marcus's notebook mentioned a safe room. Elena found it. This room is too small, she announced in what was probably a bedroom. There's at least 3 feet missing from the exterior wall. Tom pried at the boards. Behind them, a hidden space, narrow but deep, with a ladder leading down into darkness. The hidden cellar was concrete, smooth cement. Industrial shelving lined the walls, loaded with bankers' boxes, labeled with dates and code names. A workbench held surveillance equipment, old cameras, recording devices, phone tapping gear. What the hell was your husband into? Elena whispered. Then I found it. A box labeled Acquisition, Sophia Marie Chun. 2008 to 2015, my maiden name. The years before I'd met Marcus. Inside, detailed reports, photographs, college transcripts, medical records. A psychological profile dissecting my personality. Subject shows signs of father abandonment issues, likely to respond positively to older male authority figures. Recommend Marcus adopt paternal protective role initially, transitioning to romantic interest once trust established. My hands shook. Every vulnerability cataloged, weaponized. Sophia! Tom's voice was tight. He stood by another shelf, holding an open box. Cash. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. Old bills, sequential serial numbers. Evidence of something, Elena said, her phone already taking pictures. Money laundering. We should call the police. No, I said sharply. Not yet. I need to understand this. I moved to another box. Contracts. Legalese I couldn't fully grasp, but names kept appearing. Richard Whitmore. And at the bottom, J. Fisher. Fisher. Like the Fisher Shack. A photograph slipped out. Older, 1970s. Men in suits, in front of the shack. A younger Richard Whitmore. And the man next to him, Joseph Fisher, the real estate developer who disappeared in 1987. Oh my God, I breathed. They killed him. They killed Fisher and took his money. Sophia, that's a huge accusation, Elena started. Look at the dates. I pulled out more documents. Fisher disappears August 1987. Contracts transferring his properties to shell companies start September 1987. All witnessed by Richard Whitmore. Another photo, the same men, toasting with champagne, 2 weeks after Fisher vanished. The serial number range, Tom said, pale, examining the money. My dad talked about this. Part of a federal investigation in the early 90s. A massive real estate fraud scheme, never solved. Thump, thump, thump. Footsteps from above. Heavy. Deliberate. We didn't hear a car, Elena whispered. Someone's up there. They stopped directly over the hidden entrance. Then Richard Whitmore's voice drifted down. Calm, conversational. I know you're down there, Sophia. We need to talk. My blood turned to ice. How did he know? Don't come up. Elena hissed. We call 911. Richard continued. The police won't help you, dear. Half of them are on our payroll. He explained the cell jammer. Now, you can come up, or I can come down. I looked at Elena and Tom. Fear in their eyes, but also determination. Elena grabbed an old camera, hefting it like a weapon. Tom picked up his crowbar. We go up together, I said. He won't do anything with witnesses. I was wrong. Richard wasn't alone. 3 hulking men in suits stood with him. Richard looked perfectly at ease, examining the carvings on the wall. Marcus was supposed to keep you away from here, he said, turning. That was the entire point of the marriage. Keep you close, but controlled. Make sure you never went digging into your connection to all this. What connection? I demanded. Your maiden name is Chun, but your mother's maiden name was Fisher. Joseph Fisher was your great-uncle, Richard said, his smile almost pitying. When we discovered you existed, we couldn't risk you making a claim on his estate. The room spun. So you had Marcus marry me to what? Make sure I never found out. Initially, yes. But Marcus grew fond of you. Started having second thoughts. He was going to tell you everything. Richard's expression hardened. That's why he had to go. You killed your own son. Elena's voice was horrified. The syndicate comes first, Richard replied without remorse. Marcus knew that. He forgot it when he fell in love with you. He said love like it was a disease. Sentiment has no place in business. This isn't business, it's murder, Tom said, stepping forward, but one of the suited men blocked him. Prove it, Richard said simply. My son died in a tragic accident. Case closed. I thought about the notebook, the documents. If he was going to kill me, he would have already. Kill you? Richard laughed, cold and brittle. My dear, you're worth more alive. You're the last legitimate Fisher heir. With you under our control, any future claims stop with you. I'll never help you, I said. You already are, Richard replied. Just by accepting the shack, you've legally acknowledged the will. By entering this property, you've established possession. And now that you've found our little storage facility, well, you're complicit. He laid out the trap. My fingerprints were all over the evidence, the money. I'd go down with them. You're insane if you think I'll keep quiet. But Richard was already moving toward the door. Go to the police with your wild theories. See how far you get. Detective Morrison plays poker with me every Thursday. Judge Hamilton's daughter got into Harvard thanks to our education fund. The district attorney owns 3 properties that used to belong to your great-uncle. He paused. Clean up this mess, Sophia. Get rid of those documents. Forget what you think you. No. We'll leave you alone. But if you try to use what you found here against us, remember, you're not just fighting me. You're fighting 40 years of established power. They left. It was a trap, and I'd walked right into it. We're going to the FBI. Elena said, but I was staring at a cigarette butt, still smoldering on the dusty table. The same brand I'd smelled last night. They'd been here then, watching me, letting me find just enough to implicate myself. He's right about one thing, I said slowly. My fingerprints are all over that evidence. If they spin it right, I could look like I was involved. The neglected wife, who knew about her husband's criminal connections and tried to profit from his death. Tom protested, but he could already see the angles. We need to be smarter. We can't just run to law enforcement without knowing who we can trust. First, we document everything. Every piece of paper, every serial number, every photograph. We build a case so airtight even corrupted officials can't ignore it. Sophia, what if they come back? Elena asked. I thought about Marcus, about his car going off the road on a clear night. No skid marks. He called me an hour before, agitated, needing to tell me something important. Then we make sure I'm not an easy target. We make copies of everything. Store them in different places. We create a dead man switch. If something happens to me, everything goes public. Tom, examining the cellar entrance, suddenly straightened. There's another level. He pointed to the ladder, continuing down past the floor. See, a hatch on the floor, painted to blend in. My heart raced as we opened it, revealing a second chamber. Smaller, older. A metal filing cabinet. Inside were the real secrets. Not just financial documents, but photographs of crime scenes, what looked like murder confessions, and a leather-bound ledger detailing every crime the syndicate had committed since 1987. Names, dates, methods, and most importantly, who had ordered each action. Marcus's death was there. Termination order number 47. Subject, Marcus Whitmore. Reason, security breach / potential whistleblower. Authorized by R. Whitmore. Method, vehicular incident. Status, complete. Richard had signed his own son's death warrant. Then the next entry. Termination order number 48. Subject, Sophia Whitmore. Reason, inherited liability. Authorized by R. Whitmore. Method, TBD. Status, pending review. We need to leave, Elena said, her voice high with panic. We grabbed everything. The ledger, key documents, photos. Climbing up, I noticed fresh scratches around the door frame. Tom saw them too. Cameras, he whispered, his face pale. They're watching us right now. We ran. Crashed into Tom's truck. As we peeled out, I saw them in the rearview mirror. 2 black SUVs emerging from the tree line. Following us. Where do we go? Elena clutched the ledger. The newspaper. I thought fast. The Coastal Tribune. Jenny Martinez. She's been trying to expose corruption for years. Tom drove like a man possessed. Through back roads, onto Main Street, Saturday shoppers jumping back as we careened past. The Tribune building ahead. Jenny's car in the lot. We screeched to a stop. I was running before Tom even parked, the ledger clutched to my chest. I burst through the doors, past the startled receptionist, up to the newsroom. Jenny! I gasped. Richard Whitmore killed his son. Joseph Fisher. It's all here. They're coming for me right now. Jenny didn't hesitate. She grabbed the ledger, her scanner warming up. Get everything digital now. Elena and Tom burst in, arms full of documents. Other reporters sensed the story. Jenny barked orders, and suddenly the newsroom was a hive of activity, scanning, photographing, uploading. They can't stop all of us, Jenny said, her fingers flying. Not once it's out there. Through the window, I saw the black SUVs pull into the parking lot. Richard stepped out, phone to his ear. Our eyes met. He said something to his men. They stay by the cars. My phone rang. An unknown number. Don't answer, Elena warned. But I already had. You've made a serious mistake. Richard's voice was calm. Too calm. You have no idea what you're destroying. You destroyed it yourself when you killed Marcus, I said, putting him on speaker for Jenny to record. When you killed Joseph Fisher. Fisher was a pedophile, Richard said bluntly. Did you see that in your precious documents? 3 families came to us begging for justice the law wouldn't provide. Yes, we killed him. And we took his money and used it to build something better. Schools, hospitals, homeless shelters, all funded with Fisher's blood money. I faltered. This wasn't in the documents. Jenny shook her head, mouthing lie. Even if that were true, it doesn't justify 40 years of murder and corruption, I said. Doesn't it? We cleaned up this town, Sophia. It was dying. Now look at it. Thriving, safe. All because we were willing to do what needed to be done. You killed your own son. A pause. Then, quieter, Marcus made his choice. He chose you over his family. I gave him every chance to come back. He refused. So you had him murdered. I had a problem solved. Just like I'll solve this one. The line went dead. The SUVs pulled away. They were leaving. Why? Jenny's computer pinged. Then another reporter's. What's happening? I asked. Jenny's face went white. Every file we just uploaded, they're being deleted from our servers, from the cloud. Everywhere. Tom was at his laptop. It's not just here. Every copy I emailed to myself, to my contacts, all gone. It's like they never existed. I looked down at the physical ledger in my hands. It was all we had left. My phone buzzed. A text from Richard. You have 1 hour to return what you've stolen. After that, termination order number 48 goes into effect. Your friends, too. Their families. Everyone you've involved. 1 hour. We run right now. Elena grabbed my hand. But I thought about Marcus. His fear that last night. He'd known. He tried to protect me the only way he knew how, by leaving me the shack. Knowing I'd find the truth. Knowing I'd have leverage. No, I said quietly. We don't run. We fight. But we fight smart. I turned to Jenny. How fast can you get a camera crew here? Live broadcast. We go public with everything right now. Before they can stop us. Jenny was already making calls. Reporters set up cameras. They can delete digital files, but they can't delete a live broadcast that thousands of people are watching. I held up the ledger. Through the window, black SUVs had returned. More of them, surrounding the building. Sophia, Tom said quietly. What if they don't care about witnesses? What if they're past that point? I thought about Richard's cold voice. They were past caring about collateral damage. This was endgame. Then we make sure the truth outlives us, I said, opening the ledger to Marcus's termination order. We make sure his death meant something. The camera's red light blinked on. Good evening, Jenny began, her voice steady. We're interrupting our regular programming with explosive revelations about a criminal syndicate that has controlled our city for 40 years. Through the window, Richard was on his phone, face twisted in rage. But he wasn't looking at the building. He was looking up the street. Police cars were arriving. Not local police, state police, FBI. Someone else had been watching, waiting. As Jenny broadcasted, as the ledger's secrets spilled out, I felt a shift. The shack had one more secret. There had been another watcher all along. Someone in the shadows, documenting everything. The cigarette butts, the miraculously appearing notebook, the convenient discovery of the cellar. Someone had been guiding me. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Well played, Mrs. Whitmore. Your husband would be proud. The rest of the evidence is en route to federal authorities. Signed, JF. JF. Joseph Fisher. But he'd been dead for 40 years. Hadn't he? The federal agents cordoned off the Tribune building. Jenny's broadcast had gone viral. 3 days later, I was in the town library's archives, surrounded by old newspapers. The syndicate hadn't thought to destroy these. Found something, Elena said. Joseph Fisher had a son. Death certificate filed in 1986, 1 year before Joseph supposedly died. She pulled up another document. School enrollment records for J. Fisher Jr. in Switzerland, 1986 to 1990. He faked his son's death to protect him, I whispered. The death certificate was signed by Dr. Marcus Whitmore Sr., Richard's older brother. He died in a boating accident 2 months later. Another accident. Another convenient death. My phone buzzed again. Text from JF. Municipal Records, Box 1847. Third folder. Time you knew the whole truth. 1847, the shack's address. I found the box. Inside, property deeds. Buildings all over town. Purchased between 1970 and 1987. All in my mother's maiden name. Fisher. Oh my God, I breathed. My mother owned half the town and never knew it. These were tucked behind falsified documents transferring the properties to shell companies. Sophia, if these are legitimate, you don't just own that shack. You own them all. Billions in real estate. Which explains why they needed me under control, I said. Not just to keep me quiet. They needed me alive, but ignorant, in case anyone challenged their ownership. They could always produce me, the heir, who had willingly transferred the properties. A shadow fell across the table. An elderly man, but straight-backed, with familiar eyes. Mrs. Whitmore, he said quietly. We need to talk. Elena went for her phone. He held up a hand. I'm not with them. I've been fighting them for 40 years. My name is James Fisher, Joseph's son. I stared. You sent the texts, I said. He nodded. I've been watching. When Marcus married you, I thought it was over. But then Marcus started having doubts. He reached out to me, wanted to know the truth. You were in contact with Marcus for the last 6 months of his life. He was gathering evidence, planning to bring them all down. The ledger you found, Marcus compiled most of it. He was going to give it to you on your anniversary. Tell you everything. James's face darkened. Richard found out 3 days before. You know the rest. You killed your own son, I repeated, the words tasting like ash. Marcus was weak. He fell in love with you. Actually fell in love despite knowing what you were, what you represented. Richard gave him every opportunity to come back to us, but he chose you. So you had him murdered. I had a problem solved. Just like I'm about to remove you. Patricia stood up, smoothing her skirt. But first, you're going to sign some documents, transfer the Fisher properties back to our control, publicly recant your accusations, admit you fabricated evidence in grief-driven madness. Never! Patricia smiled. A cold, terrifying expression. She pulled out her phone, showing me a live video feed. Elena and Tom, tied up in another room. Sign or they die. Simple as that. My blood turned to ice. I picked up the pen, my hand trembling. Elena and Tom versus justice for 40 years of victims. How could I choose? 5 seconds, Patricia said. As I started to sign, a shadow moved behind Elena and Tom on the video feed. Then another. I pressed the pen to paper, buying time. Patricia leaned closer, eager to see her victory. That's when the lights cut out. In the darkness, Patricia's startled gasp. The sound of a struggle. Emergency lights kicked in. Patricia was on the ground, unconscious. Melissa stood over her, tactical baton in hand. Took you long enough, I said, relief washing over me. Had to wait for the full team to get in position, she said, cutting my restraints. Can you shoot? Marcus taught me. Good, because we're not out yet. The warehouse was a maze. Melissa led, professional and lethal. We found Elena and Tom, guarded by two men Melissa quickly subdued with non-lethal shots. Sophia. Elena hugged me. We thought you were dead. Not yet, I said. Approaching vehicles. FBI, police, news vans. And more black SUVs. The cavalry, and what remained of the syndicate. This is about to get messy, Melissa said. Then the wall exploded inward. Men in tactical gear, no badges. Private military contractors. A firefight erupted. Tom pulled Elena behind a table. I tried to remember Marcus's shooting lessons. Then Patricia's voice over an intercom. Burn it all. If we can't have it, no one can. The smell of smoke, gasoline. They were burning the warehouse with us inside. Move! Melissa shouted. The exit was blocked. Tom threw his shoulder against it. Smoke thickened. Heat unbearable. Sirens outside, so close. Then I saw him. A figure in the smoke, moving against the chaos. Not a mercenary. That profile. Marcus! He gestured urgently to a section of wall. He pushed, revealing a hidden passage. This way now! Elena gasped. Tom was frozen. No time for explanations. We ran into the passage. Old smuggling tunnels from the warehouses past. Behind us, the roar of flames, the building collapsing. We emerged into daylight, 100 yards away, gasping and covered in soot. FBI agents surrounded us. Coleman, gun drawn. Marcus Whitmore, you're supposed to be dead. Can we discuss that after you arrest my mother? Marcus replied, pointing at Patricia being dragged from the burning warehouse. Her composure finally shattered. The reunion wasn't what I'd imagined. We were in an FBI field office. Marcus in handcuffs. I know you're angry, he said quietly. Angry. I laughed, the sound broken. You let me think you were dead. You let me grieve. Let me. It was the only way to keep you safe. As long as my father thought I was dead, he focused on containing the damage instead of hunting us. You could have told me. Found a way. Every communication was monitored. Every person who knew increased the risk. Even Melissa didn't know until today. He leaned forward, eyes intense. Sophia, I died for you. Literally. Legally. Officially. Everything I was, everything I had gone. Because keeping you safe was more important than anything else. Don't, I said, needing distance. Don't make this noble. You lied to me. Our entire relationship was built on lies. No, he said firm. The assignment was a lie. The beginning was a lie. But falling in love with you? That was the truest thing that ever happened to me. It's why I couldn't go through with it. Why I started gathering evidence. Why I'm sitting here now. Coleman re-entered. Mr. Whitmore, you're looking at serious charges. Fraud, conspiracy, fleeing a crime scene. I have immunity, Marcus said calmly. Full immunity, granted by the Justice Department in exchange for my cooperation. Check with the Attorney General's office. I've been working with them for the past month, feeding them information. Coleman made the call. Her expression changed. You're free to go. Both of you. Outside, we stood awkwardly. Strangers who had once promised forever. The shack, he said suddenly. We need to go there now. In about an hour, the remaining syndicate members are going to make one last play. The shack is the key. The convoy to the shack looked like a presidential motorcade. Marcus explained. It's built on the cornerstone of their entire financial structure. There's a vault underneath, deeper than the cellar you found. Original incorporation documents for every shell company, every fraudulent trust, every illegal transfer. Destroy those documents, and legally, billions in assets revert to their rightful owners, including you. Smoke was already visible on the horizon. They're going to burn it down, vault and all. But when we arrived, the shack wasn't on fire. It was surrounded by armed syndicate members in a standoff with law enforcement. Daniel Morrison, the lawyer, now holding an assault rifle, stood at their center. The happy couple reunited, he called through a megaphone. Here's the situation. Explosives planted throughout the structure. You come any closer, we detonate. The evidence goes up in smoke. Marcus put a hand on Coleman's arm, stopping her from grabbing her radio. Let me talk to him. I know these people. He looked at me. Trust me. Despite everything, I nodded. Marcus walked toward the shack, hands raised. Daniel, you know this is over. Even if you destroy the documents, we have copies. Testimony enough to bury everyone. Copies can be challenged. Testimony can be recanted. But those originals, those are ironclad. Daniel's voice was desperate. 40 years, Marcus. 40 years of building something magnificent. And you destroyed it for what? Love. For justice. For truth. For the chance to look at myself in the mirror without seeing my father's crimes. Marcus took another step. And yes, for love. Because that's the one thing you and my father never understood. There are things more valuable than power. That's when I saw it. Movement in the shack's broken window. The familiar silhouette. James Fisher stepped out of the shadows. But not the elderly man from the library. This was Joseph Fisher himself, looking exactly as he had in those 1970s photographs. Hello, Daniel, Joseph said, his voice carrying. Been a while. Daniel's composure cracked completely. No. You're dead. We killed you. I saw the body. You saw a body. But you can't kill an idea, Daniel. You can't murder justice. It just waits. Patient. Until the right moment. Like now. Joseph walked closer, and in the afternoon sun, I could literally see through him to the shack behind. Mass hallucination? I didn't know, and didn't care, because Daniel and his men were backing away in terror, their weapons lowering. In that moment of distraction, FBI agents moved in, disarming them. But one person wasn't distracted. Patricia. She emerged from behind the shack, a pistol in her hand, aimed directly at me. If I can't have my empire, she snarled, at least I can take Joseph's heir. 3 shots rang out simultaneously. Patricia's, missing me by inches. Melissa's, catching Patricia in the shoulder. And Marcus's, I hadn't known he was armed, hitting his mother's gun hand, sending the weapon flying. Patricia fell, screaming. You shot me. Your own mother. You stopped being my mother the day you agreed to kill me, Marcus replied coldly. As the EMTs took Patricia away, I stood in front of my shack, battered but still standing. Joseph Fisher, or whatever he was, had vanished. Marcus stood beside me. The vault's real. We should check it. Before what? I asked. Before you disappear again. I was thinking more like before dinner. He pulled out his phone. Our anniversary restaurant. The table where he proposed. I know I have no right to ask. You faked your death. Yes. You let me mourn you. Yes. You manipulated me, even if it was to protect me. Yes. I turned to face him fully. And you gave up everything. Your family. Your name. Your entire life to keep me safe. I'd do it again. One dinner, I said. Finally. You get one dinner to explain everything. Really everything. No more lies. No more secrets. Deal. We entered the shack together. The real vault was there, a massive steel door. Inside, the documents. And Joseph Fisher's real journal. He discovered the syndicate's early crimes, tried to stop them, and paid with his life. But he'd hidden the evidence, booby-trapped to activate only if someone with Fisher blood accessed it. That's why they needed me. Not just as an heir, but as the key to their own destruction. He'd planned it all. My mother's accidental meeting with my father. Even me finding him. A 40-year plan to bring justice. He was playing chess while everyone else played checkers, Marcus said. That evening, Marcus filled in the gaps. How he discovered his family's crimes. How he tried to find a way out. How James Fisher, Joseph's very real, very alive son, had helped him fake his death and continue the fight from the shadows. So what now? I asked. You're legally dead. Your family's empire is crumbling. Where does Marcus Whitmore go from here? Marcus Whitmore stays dead, he said simply. But Marcus Fisher, Joseph's legally adopted son, thanks to documents backdated and filed in Switzerland, he has possibilities. That's fraud. That's justice. Poetic justice. Maybe, but still justice. He reached across the table. I know I can't ask you to forgive me. I know trust once broken might never heal. But I'm asking for the chance to try. I thought about the shack. What it had held. What it had revealed. How something meant to be worthless had become invaluable. How something meant to imprison me had set me free. We tear it down, I said suddenly. What? The shack. We tear it down and build something new. A community center. Something that gives back what your family stole. I finally took his hand. And we do it together. Not as husband and wife. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But as partners. Equal partners. Marcus squeezed my hand gently. Partners. 6 months later, I stood where the shack had been, watching construction crews break ground on the Fisher Community Center. The FBI investigation resulted in over 200 arrests, the complete dismantling of a syndicate, and nearly $1 billion recovered. Patricia was serving life. Richard had died in custody. Daniel Morrison had turned state's evidence. Melissa had disappeared, chasing the last remnants of corruption. Elena and Tom were engaged. Jenny won a Pulitzer. And Marcus was standing beside me, our relationship slowly rebuilding on a foundation of truth. Any regrets? He asked, watching the construction. I thought about Joseph Fisher's ghost, about the shack that had seemed like a curse but became a gift. The journey from humiliation to triumph. No, I said, meaning it. No regrets. The shack was gone, but what it represented remained. The idea that truth, no matter how deeply buried, would eventually surface. That justice, no matter how long delayed, would eventually arrive. And that sometimes, the things meant to break us become the very things that reveal our strength. My husband had left me a shack, and in the end, it had given me back my life. So, if you discovered your entire life had been orchestrated by others, would you seek revenge or justice? And do you believe there's truly a difference? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I really want to hear what you think.